Looking to add adventure to your next trip? Would you be down to swim with sharks, hike with bears, and trek with chimps? It's okay, don't be scared. We've got you covered. Today we count down our top animal encounters we're sure will leave you saying yes to that next adventure.
Welcome to the Travel More podcast.
Each episode, we share custom itineraries, travel hacks, expert advice, and even stories of our past travel failures to help you level up your travel game.
I'm Shelly, a lover of plans, itineraries, and cheap flights. I'm an expert deal finder with one eye always on the budget.
And I'm Bruce, the improviser, ready to pick up where plans fail to turn letdowns into unexpected trip favorites. We're here to bust through barriers that stop you from making your travel dreams a reality.
So book that flight, buy the tickets, and say hello to your next adventure.
This is the Travel More Podcast. Welcome back to the Travel More Podcast.
Welcome.
So Shelly and I have had some exciting life events kind of taking place, so we've been out of it. You know,
a lot of things going on.
A lot of things
honestly.
going on. So you may have noticed we have not been, dropping podcasts every 2 weeks like we normally have.
It's the worst.
The guilt. It's
strong.
It's immense. The guilt is immense. But it's okay. We're back at it this week. We're really excited to kind of get back to recording. And we were so pumped to have our first interview guest the last time, a couple weeks now. Mm-hmm. Dan Cochran from the Antigonish Highland Games.
It's so fun with that. We got to do more interviews.
I know. I'm really hoping we can get something on the books maybe this summer.
Yeah.
We're getting close to like what we did last year, which was our summer school series of like short episodes. And Shelly and I are kind of, looking at what we want to get done for this summer and hope to share that soon.
Yeah.
But today we have a topic that I'm very excited to share and talk about.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think that this is like maybe one of our favorite things. Like when we travel, well, okay, it depends, right? Depends on like what type of travel we're doing. So if we're like going to Paris, this is probably not the top of our list. But if we're going to somewhere like a little more remote or a little more outdoorsy, pretty much number one on our list is always like, what animals can we see?
I would say, dude, I feel like animals are always in my radar. Even if we go...
In Paris? Like,
okay,
what are you seeing?
Maybe not in Paris. Sewer rat.
Yeah, I don't think that counts. Ratatouille.
That's what I think. Thank you for catching.
You're welcome.
No, but yeah, obviously not maybe on a city tour, but I think...
that's what I mean.
Yeah, but we definitely... Yeah, we were making this list thinking like, all right, what's our top 5 animal encounters in all of our travels? And as I started to write things down, it just grew and grew and grew.
Yeah, we said we had to like ditch the top 5.
So I think we still have distilled some of our best ones. But like, Shelly and I have made plans specifically to go see wildlife.
Yeah.
And I think the trips have been, all of them were life-changing.
Yeah.
And I think, looking at the different things that we're going to talk about today and some of the stories we're going to share, there's different activity levels too. And price range of like what it would cost to do some things.
Absolutely.
So not all of this is going to be your big bucket list. Like
some will be.
Some will be.
Yeah, but you're right. Not all of it.
Yeah, but not everything has to be that like giant price tag, once in a lifetime feeling to experience some really cool stuff. So anyway, why don't we jump in?
Yeah, these are in no particular order, right? These are kind of just like.
Well, I tried to order these, and I think it's impossible to do it though, honestly.
Yeah.
Although I'm going to tell you what my favorite was at the end after we list, and you should share yours.
Yeah, I think they're the same. They have to be the same.
I think they've got to be.
Yeah, they have to be the same. But, it's okay because there's like other little things I think that each one of us pulled out of like these other experiences. So you'll be able to guess which one is the best at the end. And if you know us well, you probably already can guess which one is the top. But let's talk about all of them. So let's start. Your list starts with orcas in Washington. I think it's a great place to start.
I think so too. This was like one of the crowning moments of our great road trip out west, where we met up with our great friend Merlin in Washington State. Mm-hmm. And I don't think that we had this on our itinerary at all.
No. I know we don't. And the reason I know we didn't is because I was super nervous about everything about this trip. I was nervous about the price tag because we were doing things very cheap.
Right.
And I was nervous about getting sick because I get motion sick. And I was like, how am I going to do on this boat? So I was like nervous about both these things.
Had we gone on a cruise at this point?
No.
No, we had never done a cruise. So this is several years ago. And that makes sense because I don't even think you had. Did you have C-bands?
No. I do feel like I took Dramamine that day, though.
So yeah, you definitely had Dramamine. But for everybody out there, anybody out there who's got like motion sickness and you're thinking of getting a boat, definitely look into C-bands.
Relief band.
Relief band. I know.
It's the ultimate.
That is the ultimate. That's like the Cadillac.
C-bands are child's play.
Okay.
I go relief band. No, but really, I was nervous about all the things. And, when I say the cost, this is probably $100 a person. It was just that we were keeping things really cheap when we went out west because we were out for 5 weeks and we just come off extremely low paying jobs. Really, Bruce had almost no job because he was in grad school.
Yeah, I mean, I was in school.
And I was supporting both of us on a teacher's salary in Florida. So we didn't have a lot of money. And so, the $100 price tag a person I was really nervous about. But, it's one of those things where if it comes down to it and we're traveling and something feels like it's once in a lifetime, I'm probably going to splurge. It's never let me down so far.
Well, and Merlin was really adamant about this one event. And I'm pretty sure we either got a Groupon or something.
Maybe.
I feel like we got some sort of deal on this.
Totally could be.
It was still expensive. And
for us.
It was totally worth it. Yeah, at the time.
Yeah. It was definitely worth it.
I want to say it was like, a couple hundred a piece?
No, I think it was $100 a person.
Oh, it was $100 a person?
Yeah.
As I was thinking, you were speaking, I didn't.
I saw it in your eyes. But that's okay.
It's not the first time she's told me that. So,
no, but the $100 a person was just a lot for us at the time.
Yes.
Yeah. Anywho, so this was like, I don't think it could have planned a better whale excursion. I'd never been on one. You had been on at least one in Cape Cod.
Yeah, but I gotta say this one tops it because I've done ones off of Boston and Cape Cod. It's all kind of the same Atlantic area, and they're great. You don't always see stuff.
Well, that's the thing. Before you go any further on that is my thing always with animal encounters. Is I feel like maybe I just do this in general as a person, but I always go in being like, if I see anything, it will be amazing. But for some reason, I'm always like, but I probably won't see much. But that's okay because if I see anything, it'll be fine. And so far, knocking on all the wood, we've just had these crazy cool experiences, and the orca is definitely one of those. So it was we went out and I was like, if I see orcas at all, this $100 is worth it because it's just so cool. But we didn't just see orcas. They were literally we could have touched them. They were playing around the boat.
Yes.
And they were jumping out of the water.
They're
and
incredible.
there was a huge pod of them. It was just what is happening? It's one of those things where the first one we saw was way far away, and I was like, there's our sighting.
Right,
there's the one sighting we'll have.
You cannot get closer than so many feet or yards, whatever it was.
But they can come to you.
Yes.
And you just turn off your engine and stuff.
Yes, and they came to us for sure.
They did.
They were friendly. Thankfully.
They were able to put the sonar. I guess that's what it would be. The thing in the water to pick up their cries.
Oh, right, we could listen to them.
Yeah, their vocalizations. That's how close they were. I mean, I guess that actually travels pretty far, but
Oh, but it was powerful
for
that. Yeah. And it was a nice boat. It wasn't a huge boat.
No, and there weren't a lot of people because it was COVID and we were outside and freezing.
That's right. You were bringing back all these memories. We had masks. It was cold. I mean, the water can be chilly.
Well, Washington too.
Yeah,
wasn't ever that hot.
No, and you're pretty far north because I remember we could see Vancouver Island.
Yes.
And all I ever thought about when I saw that island was that show. Alone.
I knew you were.
The guy is the scariest island because there's more cougars than anywhere in the world. Anyway, it was cool. Orca sighting. Wow. There's not many places in the world you can do it either.
No. It was one of those things where that was not on my bucket list. I just didn't even really have an idea that was a possibility. And then when he said it, I was kind of like, oh, that's really cool.
Yep.
Maybe I should just buck up.
Yes.
And take some Dramamine.
It was worth it.
And it was fine. I was not sick at all. It was totally fine. It was a totally great trip. I would definitely do it again.
But now that we're talking about these, there's little tips along the way for some of these more adventurous travels. Mm-hmm. And definitely boat, get the relief band.
Oh, yeah.
Motion sickness, for sure.
Yeah.
And anytime you're going out on the water, it's almost always colder.
Yes.
And you better have something that can cut the wind, or else you're going to be...
Actually, I feel like you guys were cold the whole time. Yes. Only because I had my Vermont flannel. Was I okay?
Yes. Well, I know because it was warm enough when we hiked. I was in shorts and a t-shirt.
Right.
But then on the water, you wanted a serious coat.
You wanted an actual jacket. It was cold.
You needed something that cut the wind in the water. So.
Anyways, do you want to stay on the water because we can just stay on the water.
You know what? Let's stay on the. I know we're jumping around now. Let's do it because these are all so amazing. I don't know if I could really rank them too much, but
all right, we'll stay on the water. This one was a I'm gonna say a birthday gift to myself because you were just saying like you always get like the short end of a stick on your birthday because we're always adventuring, and I was like, I don't know that that's the short end of the stick.
That's my joke because I'm always like, oh man, what am I gonna do for your birthday? Meanwhile,
and my answer is always like, well, we'll be in Paris. Like I think I'm good. Yeah, and you're like, oh, that's always your birthday gift. I'm like, fine with me.
Well, it's always like the guaranteed time when knock on wood, we don't have like 20 snow days in New England. Yeah, it's gonna happen this year now that I said it.
Yeah,
but we almost always have that last week of June free.
Yeah, so this was no different, and we ended up doing a Virgin cruise, which I feel like we've talked about before, which is a really cool cruise line. But
we talked a little bit when we said cruises, but we didn't go into detail too much.
Yeah, which is okay. We can go into detail about that cruise a little later, because otherwise we'll be here for hours talking about these animal experiences. But this one was for my 30th birthday, and we went into Miami. It was really fun, and we had already. Let me try to remember if I'm saying this right. Yeah. So we'd already booked one excursion that was like an adventurous one in the Dominican Republic because it wasn't that expensive and it was like, this is definitely the thing we should do while we're here. But we couldn't decide on Bimini, which is in the Bahamas, if we wanted to just like hang out at the beach resort. Yeah. Or if we wanted to do an excursion, and the only one I was really interested in was a little expensive. So this one I think was closer to like, I think it actually might have been, it's like 200 or
250.
I'll say a little over 200.
This one definitely, I may have been confusing this with the Orca. This one was definitely,
it was expensive.
An added cost.
Yeah, and I really went back and forth. And it's funny, I should have always asked my dad, because I was like, Dad, what do you think? Should I do this excursion? He was like, yes, always yes. And I was like, all right, yes. I'm going to just come to you, Dad, and ask you.
Wisdom.
Anyways, so this one was, we went snorkeling at a shipwreck, which was cool in itself.
Yes.
But then the other half of it is that you swam with, were they blacktip reef sharks?
Yes, which sound scary.
It was scary. The whole thing was scary.
It was a little scary. I'm not sure how I did this, to be honest with you.
I actually can't either, except sharks have also been like a pretty big fear for me. But you have a fear of like just general water. So well, I actually don't know how you did that.
I think I have overcome... No, I haven't overcome things. I just think there's something about being in a group...
It makes you a little better.
And the water is so clear that you can see everything. That all makes me very okay.
Okay. I feel like we have talked about this story just a little bit on the podcast, but I have to reiterate this story because I just think it was the scariest part is, so I've always like been a little freaked out about sharks. I go to the beach every summer with my family and it just like, it freaks me out a little bit. And so we're literally diving into sharks infested water. Like you're looking at them and you're like, cool. And the one thing the person says is, you want to keep your head under because that's, you can see them.
Because we're snorkeling.
Because you're snorkeling and you have like the flippers on and they're like, just don't like make any splashes above the water. But I don't know how many of you guys have tried to swim with flippers on, but they do not stay at the bottom. Like they float. And so you're already trying to float, but like keeping it under. And like without fail, of course you're gonna like.
So the second everyone gets in the water, it's like.
Yeah, all of a sudden it's all the things they just said not to do.
They're like, it's a fish in distress. They'll come.
Yeah, and I'm like, every time my like flipper hit the top of the water at all, I had like a paralyzing fear because they would like come up really close to you and then just like in the last minute like swim away.
Right.
So it was like a little freaky.
Well, it's such a good example of like no matter how much I learn about animals and the reality of that, the amount of shark attacks that occur is so rare.
Yeah, right.
And usually they're in very specific times, like when they're feeding off a sandbar, for instance.
Right.
But so this was a controlled area where they do this like every day.
Right.
But even with that, you're just fighting like that primal something. You see like this animal in the water that doesn't really have any interest in us.
Yeah, it's like this is not one of our animal encounters, but I personally love snakes. Like I wanted to be a herpetologist. It comes back, I promise. What we're talking about. So I love snakes and all the reptiles. And I wanted to be a herpetologist when I was younger, and now I'm a science teacher, so I kind of got there. But I was with my dad one time, and my dad heard a snake. Like you hear in the things. So he was like investigating to see what kind and everything. And he picks up this rock, and there were like, I mean, when I'm remembering it, there were hundreds of snakes. They were not actually.
It's like Indiana Jones.
But like literally, like the way I remember this was like that they were all like slithering on top of each other. And I mean, it was like a wild amount of snakes under this rock because they were like babies. And I will say, even as someone who loves snakes, like it like kind of skeeved me out. I was like, oh, okay, like drop that. Like that, for some reason, it's like, that's not natural. Like my primal instinct was like, no, that's too much. Like, even though I like snakes a lot.
You mean like the huntsman spider in Florida?
That was also very scary.
And that deserves a footnote, and then we'll get back to the sharks because I've never seen one of these like 1 foot diameter spiders. Okay, it's not that big.
It was literally as big as my hand.
At least as big as a hand.
It was humongous.
And it was out in the shed, you remember?
Yeah, do I remember? I can play the video in my
There's
head.
a video. If there's a way we can share this and post it, it is beautiful.
Because there are worse animal encounters.
I think,
right now.
does your dad try to get it with a shovel?
Yes, he does.
And like he misses, it runs away immediately, and there's just the video ends with showing a scream, like perfectly cut off. Like,
and I don't scream really.
No.
I'm not like a screaming person.
Anyway, so animals are great until they're scary, and then you realize that they're just fine, and you got to get over it because.
And it was all good. We didn't get hurt by any of those things.
No, all these animals
all
were chill.
well.
They're good. You just got to be aware and respect them.
But swimming with sharks was like a personal like. I knew I was gonna like be freaked out about it, so like that's why I booked it.
Yes,
because I was like, this is like a cool thing to conquer.
I would recommend it to anybody. It
was really cool.
I think Virgin Cruises often go to their Bimini, Bahama.
Oh, I think always.
Every single one.
Well, like in the Caribbean.
Yeah, they're Caribbean ones. And I will say, as we go through this, it's kind of fun because each one of the encounters that we've had so far, and some of them later, are all different types of traveling we've done.
Yeah.
So the Orca one was a road trip.
Right.
This
was a cruise.
Yep, this was a cruise. So it's like you're thinking, oh, you can't do anything. Cruising is lame. You know. Well, I would definitely check out Virgin because their whole point is like not being like a typical cruise.
Yeah, they have a good like. System of labeling their excursions too. So like that one was like adventurous and daring.
It feels very worth it. Like I felt like Virgin's adventures that you could do, their shore excursions and stuff, were great.
Yeah, that's true. And now you say that, like I've definitely have some that like
like other cruises.
Yeah, they like. It wasn't terrible.
I would just, some cruises and some destinations, especially like Europe, I would probably just get off and do my own thing.
Right.
But for whatever reason, some of the Caribbean destinations seem like it's ideal to do that because you're not going to get off in an port and go hire yourself a boat to do this easily.
We're also like not really beach people. I think like if you're just going to go hang on the beach, you're great.
Yeah,
but,
that's
like,
different.
That's just like not our thing. So, anywho, we could continue on road trips though, since we got out of the ocean. I think that's our only real oceany ones.
Yeah, let's go back. Yeah, those. Well, I guess the Everglades was somewhat of a road trip.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely was. It was when we lived in Florida, but still going from the top to the bottom of Florida is still a pretty intense road trip.
10-hour drive for sure. But we can't leave out the Everglades with manatees and alligators.
The alligators was wild. Manatees we like saw in the water, so that was cool.
Manatees are great. They're not that hard to find in Florida.
Yeah.
But I will say, like, walking among alligators.
I was gonna say that was the thing.
Hundreds.
It wasn't just that we saw them and they're like, oh, it's right there, over there. It was like, oh, I have to walk down this path next to one.
I need to explain the story. What Shelly did to me, because I we may have said this before. It needs to be said again, because this was the way that she was gonna end me. I'm telling you. We were walking in a part of the Everglades that you can, like, I think you can bicycle is the way to do it, out to an observation tower, or you can walk.
It's like paved.
It's far. Yeah, it's paved. But then there are trails that cut off.
Yeah.
So Shelly's like, let's go. And, like, we get off the paved road, which is just littered with alligators, and we go into this, like, hole of, like, a wooded area. A swampy, like, morass that you just, like, walk into.
That's a nice word.
Yes, thank you. I've been playing Magic the Gathering, so I'm thinking about all the language from the cards. So this would definitely be like a black-green swamp card.
Oh my god.
Anyway, so shout out to everybody who plays games. Anyway, so no, we took off, you see all the alligators and they don't move at all. It's like the funniest thing are people trying to take pictures with them. I'm like, dude, at any moment these things could snap around and like cut you in half.
Like in a second.
But, people do it.
They're posing with them like they're statues, though.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh.
But back to the scary path. I just remember having to crouch down to go through this thing. And I swear, it was like a TV show where there was a snake, like, slithering through. There were, like, critters, like, on the ground, like, giant spider. Like, it was like a props. I swear. It was like a movie set. And then we just got through it and we came back out. I was like, never again.
Yeah, I feel like you're, like, pushing me out the other side.
People camp in the Everglades. Do you understand this?
Yeah.
It's like Do you remember the mosquito sign in the Everglades?
Yeah, that was actually really
like,
funny.
There's like the normal level of mosquitoes is like a ton of mosquitoes.
Yeah.
And then like all the way to like insanity.
I was saying it was almost like unbearable or something. It was just like, but we were not in that. Anyway, so the alligators were, I think, the cooler part of that, just because, you know, we had seen a couple alligators because we'd been living in Florida, but they'd always been far away. And I was like, I just want to see like an alligator like right there. And we did. We saw them all over the place. You couldn't really walk that path without walking around them.
And this one is another good example of like, you know, the cruise was a moderate price.
Yeah.
You know, the road trip out west could be a whole range of costs. Yeah. But like Everglades National Park, it didn't cost us anything to go walk in there, I don't think.
Well, we had already had the parks pass.
There was a park. Yeah, so if you didn't have a parks pass, you'd pay like a very
$15
nominal,
for a car.
A very small fee.
Yeah.
And then you can go explore it. It's the best part of the parks, which brings us to another encounter.
Oh, also the parks.
Also the parks. So
on the other side of the country.
Yes. So this is definitely one of my favorites. We went to Yellowstone on our road trip. And I think we had mentioned this
we definitely
several
did,
episodes
back. I definitely talked about my encounter there, which was the wolf encounter.
Oh, yes, the wolf encounter. You should go back and listen to our road trip episode, and you can hear Shelley's wolf encounter.
That was wild.
But one of the things that we had talked about was when you're driving through Yellowstone, it could be a little bit theme parky because everybody's going along the roads.
Yeah.
You know, I would recommend if you go to Yellowstone, try to get off and wander.
Yeah.
But you can always tell when people are like stopped and you're like, oh, maybe there's something, and you find out it's a buffalo every time and you're like, oh my god, there's a million buffalo.
I literally remember, I think we said this before, but just being on that thing and being like, if this is another buffalo, because you would stop to see every time because you'd be like, I don't want to miss something.
But then you can tell though, because I remember driving and I saw somebody like perched with one of those like $10,000 cameras on his car, and I was like, this is different because the pros are stopping.
Yeah, there's something.
And getting out of the car, there was a giant grizzly bear across like a pond.
Yep.
And man, I'm so glad we didn't see one of those things hiking.
Yeah.
Out of all the animals I think I have seen, and this includes, we're about to get to Africa in a second. The grizzly bear.
We've seen some animals, but the grizzly bear was scary.
It sent like fear. Yeah. Like that thing could hunt you.
Well, the way it was walking, it was like, it was covering like 2 or 3 yards with every step. It was like, this thing, like you could not outrun it. You can't climb a tree.
Yeah,
you can't go in the water.
Yeah, that grizzly bear would just end you.
There's like nothing to get away. But in a less scary way, the same trip, we did also hike with black bears. And that was actually kind of cool.
Yeah, they seemed like they were abiding. They were chilling.
Yeah.
Like we were in the Tetons, and that was another situation where there were a good amount of people on the trail, so I felt very like safe.
Yeah, and they were, I mean, we had a good distance. It was probably like 50 yards or so, but there was like a little stream between us, and they weren't even like really facing us. They were kind of just also walking.
They kept
the
to
path
themselves.
And eating.
I mean, honestly, these animals aren't really interested in being around us. You know what I mean?
It was still pretty cool walking through the woods with them.
Yes, the moose and the bear. That was a big one. So like Yellowstone is huge wildlife in the Tetons, but man, that was awesome.
It's fun like collecting animals. Like, you know what I mean? Like you want to see certain things and you're like, oh yes, check. Yes. You know, it's like a bingo card or something.
So I think that rounds up our road trips. And we're kind of getting to some of the biggest, probably one of the wildest ones that we've done.
Well, yeah, I mean, anytime you go to Africa, like, it's got to be the number one reason people go to Africa. Is to see the African. I mean, at least not Northern Africa, obviously might be a little different, but like...
East Africa or South.
Really, anywhere you're going on safari, you know what I mean? Like, that is the point of safari, is to see the animals.
For sure.
And I just was like, if I see one in the distance, like, then I've gotten my money worth. And then, like... We had crazy encounters all the way through. Like, from the very moment we got to Uganda to leaving, it was like one amazing thing after another.
I can't recommend it enough because, it did cost a good amount of money, but like we definitely...
Our whole life savings, but it's fine.
No, it's not like that because like there are ways to go. You don't have to go as long as we did.
We have gone a long time. It's like 17 days.
Yeah. I mean, I think like, I guess my point is I always thought of these kind of trips as like something only extraordinarily wealthy people might do. And that's just not the case. I mean, sure, you got to plan for it. You got to save for it. But wow, there's nothing like it. So we got to list the top 5. Like the big 5 in Africa are huge on this list.
Yeah. Although I was surprised at like what is in the big 5. like what animals were actually part of the Big Five.
I agree, because I thought it was other ones.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember even what the Big Five are. But Cape Buffalo are definitely one.
I did not,
one we found like immediately. It's not like the top 5 hardest to find. It's like the literal biggest.
Yeah,
like
I know. I thought it was like
mean?
the most popular. I'm like,
Right.
no, they're largest size.
Yeah, like Cape Buffalo.
So how are
you
hippo not on there?
see-
That doesn't make sense then.
I don't know.
Hippo aren't because you've got lion, rhino, elephant, the buffalo, leopard.
Yeah,
But they don't. The hippo are bigger, so I don't know. The
don't
leopard doesn't
know.
fit.
I'm not really sure.
We'll have to have someone explain to us, because I feel
Yeah.
like we talked.
Big Five are.
We must have asked George.
Oh yeah. Well, we definitely talked to him because we didn't see like cheetahs, and I was like, "Is that on the Big Five?" And he's like, "No," because they're not even in that part of Africa, really.
No, you have got to go to a certain place to find them.
Yeah, but anyways, Cape Buffalo were still really fun, even though they were like we saw them all the time. They don't see very well, and so like anytime you'd stop, they like put their head up almost like they're saying like, "Hey."
They're like, what's up?
Yeah.
And then they like sniff.
Yeah,
Yes.
they sniff because they're trying to see you.
They see you through the smelling,
Yeah.
essentially.
And then, hippos, like you mentioned, hippos and crocodiles, at first were really excited to see, and then we saw so many of them, they became like the buffalo, where we're like, oh yeah, there's another hippo, another crocodile.
Crocodiles, we do not see as many.
You're right. I was going to literally correct myself.
The Nile crocodile. Hippos, yes. The Nile crocodile was very cool.
I guess we only saw a couple of those, but they were freaky.
Because something I don't think I realized, like, the crocodile we saw was like the big, when you think about the massive, like, Captain Hook
the
crocodile. Not like the skinny nose,
It's
like.
funny, you said Captain Hook, I was thinking Steve Irwin, but,
Yes, yeah.
You got it. You got
But
there.
impressive, because even the alligators, I mean, sure, they can be big, but the ones we saw were all like, okay, like they're sizable, and there are many of them, but the Nile crocodile was monstrous.
Yeah, they were scary. And honestly, the hippo was really scary too. I worked at a zoo, and hippos were like the class 1 animal that it was like, you don't get anywhere near a hippo. And we were like casually boating next to them. Like you could literally like touch them essentially. I mean, you wouldn't, but like we were so close to them and sometimes that I was like,
well, that's the thing I don't think I knew, or maybe I had heard it, but then I definitely learned of it from the people there. Hippos are the most dangerous.
Oh, I knew that.
They
actually kill more people in Africa, I think, than any other animal.
Yeah, and I mean, it made sense because they were abundant. And if you're out at night and you cross paths with one, man, they're very territorial and they can just wreck any other animal.
Yeah, there was a time that George was like, go see, like, there's some hippos out there. And we got out of the car and stood on the bank of the water. And I was like, no way this is safe. Like,
but it's because they chill during the day. It's like too hot.
Yeah, also
they
like,
the
I think it's, you don't want to be on the shore or in the water. But them going in and out is like not their fastest. That's what I told myself.
they have to like transform into like land or sea mode.
Yeah. That's what I told myself, at least, to not be so scared of.
But man, there's so many good things from that trip in Africa, especially when you think about the Big Five. And one of them was the elephants in Queen Elizabeth. Oh. There was this like Jurassic Park moment, where George took us out to like an overlook in a valley, and there were like 300 elephants just like existing.
And like sunset, like you can't make this stuff up. Like it just was like such a like moment. And in fact, it was such a moment that we got to like. We were kind of driving around the outer rim of it, so we were just kind of looking out the window, being like, "Oh my gosh!" And then we get to like another like part where you could kind of like park and see, and there was already one car, and there are obviously multiple tourist vehicles, but not nearly as much as like bigger African destinations, I guess. So it was kind of nice. So there was only one other car doing this, but they had their whole car out and they had like champagne.
Yes.
Like sitting there looking at it because that's how like idyllic it was. It was just like, wow, I'm just going to sit here at sunset and watch like these 300 elephants down in the valley. Like, it was a wild time.
It was like, it reminded me of Land Before Time.
Yeah.
Like Littlefoot and his Brontosaurus family. It was
awesome.
All
kinds of deep cuts today.
Dude, I've got them. They're coming, man. Let's go.
Honestly, though, okay. If we're going to go with, like, not the Big Five sighting, although elephant would have been, but not our number one sightings in Africa, if we're going to go to some other ones. My favorite one of the smaller sightings, I guess is what we're calling this, were the hyenas.
Yes. Okay, this was what we were saying. It felt like we were Anthony Bourdain or something, like off the track. Like
it's one of those moments where you're literally like, this is like not my life. Like this is like not happening.
Hyenas are a little more difficult to see because they come out at night.
Yeah, and they were really only in Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah, they weren't everywhere. But we got to go out and kind of with the owner of the safari like lodge we were staying at, and he had some meat. I don't know what it was.
Well,
It was
wait, you gotta back
bad.
up just a bit.
Yes, let's back it up.
Yeah, you gotta explain this lodge situation. So he was the owner of the lodge. He was Ugandan, but he had also lived in the United States. And in fact, like right now, splits his time back and forth between like Tampa and the United States. And so him and George, our guide, were very friendly. Like they were friends and hung out. And so he was like, oh, I always want to meet George's people that he brings. But he especially likes American tourists because he lives in America right now. So it's kind of a cool way, I think, that he can kind of like connect both places that he lives.
And I don't think it's very common.
No, right. We didn't actually see very many at all people
Maybe
from the U.S.
Only the people in the beginning.
I was going to say, and we kind of followed them around a little bit. But yes, that
mostly
group.
European.
Yeah, mostly European. And so he was just excited to see Americans. And so we were talking to him. He like makes his own whiskey. You know, like we were just kind of going back and forth. And he's like, do you want to go see my hyenas? And we're like, yeah. And he's like, let's get in the car. And we're like, literally just had a shot of his like personal whiskey barrel. And we're like getting in his car, not like our car with George, like his car. And he's like takes us out to the back. And he's like, let's just sit here. And he turns off all the lights. And then, yeah, he had some like meat, like leftovers or something. They threw in, then all these hyenas came.
They were amazing.
They were like doing their little
hyena laugh.
Yelly thing. It was wild.
That was definitely a highlight for sure.
That was just like a crazy moment in time where you're just like, what is happening? Like, dude, how do we get in this guy's car right now?
Then the armed guard that walks you back to your room. And then at night, we're in this canvas tent. You could just hear lions like grumbling, like what felt like a foot from your face.
Yeah, that was
slept.
It was a lot. And it was also really hot there.
It was really hot. That was probably the hottest. Queen Elizabeth area was the warmest.
Yeah, that was like kind of how I felt like Africa was going to be. I mean, it's a continent, but Uganda, like I thought it would be like that all the time, and then it wasn't at all. It was actually really nice most of the time.
Yeah, I mean,
like
it was like
one place.
68 degrees. It was like the ideal conditions for, well, primates.
Yeah,
I was going to say, and that brings us to like probably our biggest encounter, and I would say is definitely our number one.
I mean, how could it not be? We literally were in the woods with, well, first chimps.
Yes,
so chimp tracking, you know, it's interesting. I like kind of not forgot, but like I like wasn't, you know, I didn't know we were doing the chimp tracking, I guess. I knew it, but like I kind of forgot. We said so many other things to do.
Well, we just listed like 20 other animals.
No, but like, I mean, like while we were in Uganda,
that's what I mean.
Like,
still,
we're like going to see chimps. But it was cool for me because I had never seen a chimp. Because we have gorillas at the zoo that I worked at. But we didn't have chimps. And so I like have never seen a chimp ever. Like except for like on TV or whatever. All these animals I had at least seen before. I just said I hadn't seen them in their natural environment. Which is a much different thing. And it's way cool. But I had never seen a chimp at all. So I was like really excited to see it. And we saw one way, way, way up in the tree branches that was like spitting fruit on us. That I couldn't even get a good picture of because it was like silhouetted.
Yeah, it just looked like
yeah, it was like I could see it, but it like barely. It was like way, way up. And so I was kind of like, again, like I do every time, I'm like, oh, well, there was our sighting. And I was like a little disappointed because I was like, oh man, I wish we could have gotten a better view. And we're still kind of walking around. And then we get like a call on like the radio that our guide does, and it was like, oh, there's this family if we get over there. And so we're like hucking it through the woods.
Yeah, we hiked probably almost an hour.
At least. We have been hiking for a while before we got that call.
Trying to find them, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the other thing, which is I'm not great at, which is the like, how long are we going to be walking through the woods?
An indefinite amount of...
Yeah, I'm not great about that. I'm really good at long hikes. I did 15 miles in the Whites, but like, I knew the end of that. Like this was, you know, when we're just like hiking kind of like you said indefinitely, I can get a little like, all right, like what's going on? Over? Yeah. So this was happened a little bit to me, but then we got that call and I was like, all right, like where are we going? Like let's go. And we came up on this family, and when I say we were close, we had to put on masks.
Oh yeah, right, because this was still it was what 2 years?
2022.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. 2021. 2022.
Yep.
Yeah, 2022. So a little bit after the, you know, COVID. I mean, the places were still like needed like vaccines and like all that kind of stuff.
But traveling was occurring. For sure.
We had to put on COVID masks. We were that close to the chimps, and they can get COVID, and so they were like put masks on. But like, I mean, I have a video of like Bruce like looking at a chimp and then like panning over to me and me being like, oh my gosh, do you see that? Like, just the look on my face.
No, but the best video is the one that I screwed up trying to get because I got so scared.
That was the best video. This, I actually just told this story to my kids at school. This was a good story because I have, for whatever reason, like zero fear with animals. And Bruce loves animals, but definitely...
Whoa. Zero fear? You just talked about the sharks as a scary thing.
Yeah, that was...
The snakes.
But you definitely have a lot more fear.
Okay, all right.
You do. This is a good example.
That's because I have self-preservation instinct.
Listen, I'm not saying that I'm
instinct.
Right. I'm saying that...
She's not saying it, but it's loud and clear.
No. I'm saying that I get blinded by this idea of, like, it's right there. And I'm not, like, one of those person who, like, touches the alligator, because I'm also not dumb. But, like, I definitely get more of, like, he's right there. Like, get the shot before you walk away. Like, you're already there. And this is definitely one of those times. So I have my big camera. Like, I have, like, a pretty nice photography setup. And I have a better phone than Bruce does. I have, like, the pro version of the iPhone. So I gave Bruce my phone to do the videos on, because it does videos better. And so Bruce is videoing, and I'm taking pictures. And we're kind of coming up on this family. And we're in a line. And then this, like, male chimp just starts screaming and, like...
Charging
and, like, circling our group and, like, pulling down branches.
No,
and,
my
like...
view is that he was coming right at me.
Yeah,
like,
that was your group.
And then he, like, beelined it in another direction.
But really, he was circling us.
Yes.
And so I can't get a picture because it's, like, everywhere. So I'm, like, you know, trying to follow it. It doesn't work. And then it stops and everything's fine. But I was like, Bruce... like, tell me you got that video. And Bruce is like, absolutely not. He was like, I was ready to fight a chimp. Like, I was gearing up.
I think I hid behind you.
Yeah, you did a little.
I ran to you.
But you were just like, no, I didn't at all get that video. And I was so sad. But then we, like, heard the people that we were with.
Well,
like,
the people we were with were from Germany.
And
I
Bruce speaks
understood,
German.
Well, I can get by, kind of. So
I used to speak it really well. I just haven't used it a lot.
I heard what they were saying, and I asked them.
Well, we could hear them literally playing the video.
Yes.
Like, we could hear the sounds. And I was like, Bruce, go ask them if they'll, like, airdrop it. Because then you, like, don't have to give numbers out. And you could just, you know, send it.
Right.
And we could not get the language to, like, translate airdrop specifically. And they were like, couldn't figure it out. And I was like, dang, it was so close. But then at the end, they came back up to us and were like, wait, we know what you were asking. Yes, we'll do it. And I was like, yes. So I still had the video.
Yes, it's a great video. But anyway, so chimps
were kind of scary.
Chimps were great, but they're nothing like gorillas.
Yeah.
And I'll
gorillas,
say...
the only bad part about the gorilla thing was the light was really harsh. And so the pictures, I feel like, weren't as good. But that was just my own, like, I love the photography aspect of it. So that was a little sad for me. But the experience itself, I just essentially put down my camera at one point because I was like, I've got as good as I'm going to get. And I'm just going to, like, soak this in. Dude,
out of all these things, this is probably the most, like, niche trip you could take, I think. Because there's really only, like, one or two places. Really,
two.
Rwanda or Uganda.
Yeah,
Windy.
that's it.
They're the only places in the world you can see mountain gorillas.
Yeah.
And it's incredible. Just getting there, like, driving through this mountainous region with no real roads, and then, like,
very scary roads off the
roads.
Like, side of the mountain.
But it's just an amazing place in the world that for almost all of time has been pretty much untouched. I mean, even like farming has only existed there for, I don't know, 120 years ish.
Yeah,
maybe.
It was, yeah. I mean, honestly, when I saw that was an option, because I don't know why, just like that did not compute to me when I was like looking for like places to go in Africa. And I was like, Uganda, okay, I don't know much about it. And then I was like looking at like, you know, the things that you can do in a lot of different places in Africa, like the safari. And then it was like, go gorilla trekking. And I was like, excuse me, what? Like, I didn't even like put together that was like, could have been an option.
Yeah, like this is something you could do, you could pay for.
Yeah, I just like no clue. And honestly, I don't know. Sometimes like those kind of things that like I feel like this is what I mean by I don't think about like the danger aspect of it, because I was like, well, absolutely we'll do that, and I like signed up for it, and
And
I did everything.
You're like, wait
no,
a
well,
second.
no, I was good the whole time, but I feel like everyone around me was like, what are you doing? They're like, are you sure it's safe? And I was like, honestly, no. I don't I don't really know. I mean, it seems okay. Like, why would they be advertising it? But like, yeah, honestly, that was like the thing that made me choose Uganda though, because you have such an affinity for gorillas, and I was like, if we're gonna go this big of a trip and spend this much money, like, why not be able to do both? Like, do all like the African safari animals
We
and
really
go see
got
gorillas.
the best. I would say that is the best part of Uganda, and is because you can see pretty much all of the major animals, but you can one of the only places you can go to see gorillas and chimps, like to that degree, on foot trekking with the guides and with the rangers and everything. Man, and like the people are just amazing that we saw.
Oh, yeah.
So if you want to go to Africa, Primate
Uganda.
World Safari, let us know.
Yeah,
But
for real.
definitely gorillas up there. That's probably, I think that's going to reign as number one. I don't know that it can get much better.
They were like, also, again, we had to put masks on, and because we were like feet from us, because just like orcas, you were not allowed to like come within a certain amount of feet of them, but they can come to you. And that's kind of what happened here. It was like we were kind of a bit away, and then all of a sudden the like silverback male like walked. I mean, like, again, I could have like reached out and touched this animal and like walked right past us. And that time I actually was gonna back up because the guy was like, hey, and I assumed he was gonna say like back up, and then he was like, get your camera out. And I was like, oh no, I'm backing up for this one. Like, this guy is scary looking. Like, he's right, there's no fence, like you're just there,
you're in his home.
Yeah, but they're very calm animals.
Oh, they're very chill.
Yeah,
the chimps gave me a little bit of like chaos energy.
Yeah,
but gorillas are like very peaceful.
Yeah, they
just don't want to be bothered.
Right, they were like a little like, okay, leave us alone, and then we did.
We only 1 hour a day per family group, and they're very well protected and cared for.
Yeah, I felt good about all the money that we spent doing that and the way it was handled.
Yeah, you want to make sure that's a good thing, because like everything that we've brought up so far, everybody's involved in conservation, or like almost all the groups or guides are, somehow invested into that. And that was one that we kind of missed. Like, one of my favorite stories from Africa.
This is a good story.
Yes, I think it's Ziwa, is that how you say it? The rhino sanctuary, where they have, because in the wild, white rhinos are extinct.
In Uganda.
Yeah. And I mean, rhinos, I think in general are pretty
low
to almost none, and they're really important for the savanna like ecosystem.
Yeah, and the fires, which we didn't know.
Yeah, so we went to a lot of these parks, and they do like controlled burns of tall grasses, because without the rhinos who would normally like take that down, it disrupts the whole system of like different animals do different things.
Yeah.
Like elephants knock trees down, the rhino eat the tall grass.
Yeah.
But my favorite thing about this sanctuary that we went to is that they talked to us and they're like, are you familiar with Disney's Animal Kingdom? And I'm like, yes. And they're
like, that's where these rhinos are from.
Yeah, so
like the original breeding pair.
Yeah, so they had like a couple, and now they've got, when we were there, I want to say they were close to 40, 45. Yeah. They were getting right to the point where they had enough to start to release them back into actual wilderness. Yeah. So, I mean, I think that's incredible. And I know Shelly and I talk a lot because Shelly used to work for a zoo. She's a science teacher. I love animals too. And sometimes people feel like they talk about zoos as these like awful places. Like, why do you have animals in captivity? And to be fair, there are places out there that are not doing the best with animals.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
Some of the major zoos, like the Memphis Zoo, for instance, massive conservation efforts.
Yeah.
Or like Disney's Animal Kingdom, massive conservation, like sustainability. So,
and we do, like, we talked a lot about these different things, but we do try to make sure anytime that we're like in a wildlife situation that we've like vetted the company. Yep. And that we know that they're doing things on the up and up, because while we like to experience animals, obviously, we want to do it like in a way that like is beneficial to everyone, like that our money is going to help out animals, and that or the people around them that take care of them, and that we're not harming like the ecosystem or the families or anything like that.
Right. That's something to check, you know. And
for sure.
Some other things to check too, I think as I went through this, I was like, ooh, what are some things you want to have? Binoculars, for sure. If you're going to do anything and you don't have even just like a basic set of binoculars, you're going to wish you did. Because I know when we went to Yellowstone that time, we had a very okay camera, and an iPhone camera, but no binoculars. And I remember we went to that valley.
Yeah, Lamar Valley.
Yes, and you could see in the distance there was the wolf.
Yep. It was like a pack.
Yes, it was a pack, but you couldn't really get that far out. You couldn't necessarily just walk out there, so you definitely want to bring. And then everybody that knew what they were doing had like really nice scopes or binoculars. So
that guy did let us use his though.
Yes,
that's nice.
But definitely invest in a good camera and a good like zoom lens. It doesn't need to be crazy expensive, but you're definitely gonna want binoculars. You can rent them. That's true.
You can rent probably binoculars too. Actually, I know you can rent binoculars and cameras and zoom lenses and stuff. So if you're going on somewhere that like that is your thing that you want to do, like that's worth the investment. Definitely. I think.
So that kind of wraps it up. Although we had, I forgot honorable mention, Walrus Safari.
We just saw Walrus and Svalbard.
But that does lead us into like the last thing I want to wrap up with, which some of our other encounters we'd love to do. So I've got like the short list because I know this has been a pretty long episode. We hope you've enjoyed kind of these stories and are inspired about how you can find an animal encounter of your own, regardless of the kind of trips you're doing. Yeah. But I put down swim with the manatees in Florida, which we didn't get to do because they come to the springs in like the winter. Great white sharks, not
from a distance.
From a distance. I'm not going in a cage.
No.
But I'd love to see them like in Cape Cod off the coast. There's like where they kind of like
with
feed.
Binoculars.
Yes.
Mine is that I would really love to go on like an expedition photography cruise in like Greenland. We talked to a guy who worked in both Antarctica and like Svalbard Arctic. And we asked him like, okay, so you've done all these amazing cruises. What's your favorite? And he said Greenland is the coolest.
And that's like the only chance you're really going to see polar bear.
Yeah, is if you're on like a multi-day cruise.
Yeah, because you got to be able to like traverse and find the sea ice where they're at.
Right. So that would honestly be worth it to me. And like just the other wildlife that you can kind of see in that area. So that's one of my lists, like one of my top of my lists.
And then, you know what we can't forget though? Sloths.
Yeah.
Costa Rica. I think that's the place to go.
But I just want to like see them. I don't necessarily want to go to those places that like they put them on you. I feel like I don't feel like there's a sustainable way to do that.
Probably not.
You know what I mean?
We don't
like,
need to pretend they're our babies.
Right, exactly. I just want to see them because I do love sloths, but from a distance in their own little house.
Well, anyway, we're glad to have gotten back on track with some recordings.
Yeah.
Definitely shout out in the Facebook group. Maybe we'll post a poll on your favorite animal or what you'd like to see.
Or what your best encounter.
Best animal encounter. Yes, let's do that.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right. Well, we will see you next time.
See ya.
Did you know that every time you book a Disney or Universal vacation, you're paying for a service that you may not even be using?
Really?
That's right. Travel agent costs are added to your Disney or Universal vacation, whether you use one or not.
So you're telling me that I'm paying for something even though I'm not getting the help?
You got it. So next time you want to book a theme park vacation, make your money work for you. By booking with Magic Pass Travel, you'll get our expertise and years of experience without paying any extra and while supporting a small business.
Check out our show notes to find our contact information.
Can't wait to help you plan your next adventure.